Hello, good evening, everyone. Today, we at Legal Savior have gathered together to discuss the topic with regard to environment and in nexus with the company law. The discussion topic would be adaptability of corporate environmental responsibility in India. And the session of today would be taken up by Mr. Arpit Sharma. Now, I would briefly introduce to you all that Arpit sir is right now assistant professor at Institute of Law, Nirma University. He is there responsible and taking the responsibilities with regard to company laws and real estate laws. He's also pursuing his PhD from Gujarat National Law University, Gandhinagar, and his topic for research is critical review on CSR and non-financial disclosure in environmental vis-a-vis environmental problems in India. Now, we should also know his interest as he is going to guide us in today's session with regard to CER. So his interest is particularly towards corporate governance, labor laws, in which he has already taken a lecture at Legal Savior earlier. And he has a focus on innovative pedagogies. He is actively involved in clinical legal education, and most importantly, he is the active member of, in inverted commas, South Asian Network of Justice Education. So having said all these things, I welcome Arpit sir at Legal Savior, and now the platform is all yours. Kindly enlighten us with your in-depth knowledge on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sagarji, for this kind introduction. So without wasting much time, because it's like a long day and always we are very eager with respect to this particular topic. So I'll directly come to this particular topic as you already introduced, and this is like my one of the PhD area. And when we talk about this term corporate environment responsibility, now this is like a term which is very similar to CSR. So I'll give you a structural background that how this particular corporate environmental responsibility is in action, and how we bring this particular corporate environment responsibility in India, and how companies are adopting it. What is like the structural phenomena since this particular thing was started a way back, but what is like the present situation and how we incorporate or how we adopted this corporate environment responsibility. So this particular point, corporate environment responsibility, was introduced by Ministry of Environment in the year 2018 with a notification. Let me just show you that particular notification as well in my slide. Over here, office memorandum, if you see in point number 2, that particular point is basically regard to the corporate environment responsibility. And Ministry of Environment basically engaged this particular point of corporate environment responsibility. At that point of time, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs raised that particular objection that the corporate environment responsibility is much similar to corporate social responsibility. And in this particular presentation, I'm going to differentiate that there are lot many differences, and even companies are now adopting the structure of corporate environment responsibility. So when we talk about CSR, that is corporate social responsibility, that's a financial disclosure. First and the foremost thing that the company need to basically involve in the activity, which is basically pertinent with respect to Schedule 7 of companies of the Corporate Social Responsibility Rule 2013. Vis-a-vis, we have nowadays a non-financial disclosure. Since it is non-financial disclosure, it is not very much aware to all of us. So this particular presentation given awareness about non-financial disclosure. And when we talk about the environmental aspect, then we have business responsibility report. Nowadays, it is called as a business sustainability report. And that particular thing is basically bring into an action in 2009 by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And that particular concept was introduced in 2011, where companies need to basically give a non-financial disclosure. That means there are certain things they need to disclose with regard to environment. And when we talk about environment, we have Principle 6, means principle number 6, which is applicable with respect to environment. And this particular non-financial disclosure is basically helping the company in order to give that how they are restoring the environment. What are the pedagogies, what are the policies they are using it just to provide a support or sustainability in the society. And undoubtedly corporate, when we see this particular term corporate, this particular structure is basically divided into two parts. One is financial disclosure and another one is like non-financial disclosure. So under financial disclosure, we have CSR. Now, what limitation that brings under CSR means why CSR in environment is, according to my point, is not equivalent to CER, which is like objected by Ministry of Corporate Affairs when Ministry of Environment raised the point of CER. Now, the point of difference over here is with respect to the list which is there under Schedule 7 of CSR. So, company as per Section 135 Companies Act, they means there is there are certain eligibility conditions where if company fall under that particular condition, then they need to basically do CSR 2% of CSR with respect to their profits. And that particular 2% will go in the list of 11 categories, and one of the categories environment. So if on one side we are saying that corporate environment responsibility is similar to corporate social responsibility in environment, my first point of argument over here is like how we can means there it is depending on the company if they wanted to spend for environment or not. There are, if we talk about top 100 company based on market capitalization, it is very surprising to know that only 13 companies involve their CSR in the environment aspect. So over here, when we talk about this non-financial disclosure, this non-financial disclosure gives and reporting a compliance from the side of the corporate, what they are doing in terms of restoration of the environment. And nowadays, it's like a very important concept. And in CSR, we find it that usually the company's spending, most of the spending is in the education sector. After that, if you see the statistics from National Corporate Social Responsibility website, then the national csr.org give you a statistics that first one is education, second one is healthcare, and somewhere environment is on the fourth number. Now, point over here is like there is no equilibrium with respect to this CSR spending. So then how we can say that CER means corporate environment responsibility is similar to corporate social responsibility. There might be a categorization in future. Maybe corporate are not willing to spend on environment, maybe because it is not there is no force that in 11 categorization they can go for any of the categorization. So meaning thereby that when we talk about adaptability of corporate social corporate environment responsibility, then we find it if we go on one pedestrian of CSR in environment, then there is a limitation behind it. In order to cover that particular limitation, we find it that BRR report means business responsibility report is like one of the alternative related to it. So let me just introduce this particular section 135 of the Company Act, where the condition imposed is like there should be a net worth of 500 rupees, 500 crore rupees or more, or turnover of rupees 2000 crore or more, or profit of 5 crore or more. So these are the three categorizations. What happened to those companies which not fall within these categorizations? So we can say they are not be a part of social responsibility. So that means their response means the corporation, the companies who are having these many conditions, they are like worthy to do a corporate social responsibility. Now, second point of argument over here, that all corporates, whether they fall within this particular category or not, they are using our natural resources, and that particular thing should be restored. And that is like a concept where we should understand the adaptability of CER in India. what is the limitation? I already mentioned the limitation that when we talk about the condition precedent, that means that particular condition precedent is basically if company not fall within that particular 135 section 135 conditions, then there is a limitation on the part of these companies. Now 135, I'll not go deep into it, but 135 again, that is incorporating corporate social responsibility, and nowhere under one section 35 it is a mandate that we need to spend a equilibrium amount of equivalent categorization of all the 11 categories, meaning thereby there is no such compulsion on the company to be selective on environment. And in this particular presentation, I also put forward a point that how environment is important, equally important when we talk about all these 11 categorization. Now, if we talk about the formulation and basically placing that particular corporate social responsibility policy, that company can selective on the basis of the area which is specified under Schedule 7. And when we talk about Schedule 7, that means there are 11 categorization. I'll show you that particular categorization. And in that categorization, sustainability, environment sustainability is one of the category. And we find it that there are not much supportive amount or much corporate spending, corporate social responsibility spending is there with respect to environment. So we need to monitor all these things. And while monitoring this particular part, there is a point of argument, or there is a point of we can say not set, means we are not satisfied with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs when they raise the point that CER, which was introduced by Ministry of Corporate Ministry of Environment in 2018, which is similar to this particular CSR. Now, as per board structure is concerned, corporate social responsibility nowadays is a mandate in India. And this is like a philanthropy activity, and we don't require a mandate. And sometime in international market, in international policies, we find it that lot many platform in international recognized platform, they criticize this particular thing that the corporate social responsibility is an imbibing responsibility. There is not a mandate related to it. And when we talk about this social responsibility policies, then there is a mandate. And after this particular recent amendment, we find it that if means every corporate need to spend 2%, every corporate which fall under the category of 135, section 135, they have to basically spend at least 2% of their net average profit with respect to their preceding 3 years. Now, this particular mandate somehow create a doubt on the intention of our corporates as well in an international market, because that's a philanthropy activity. And how we can make this particular philanthropy activity and make a legislation with respect to the corporate social responsibility. And that brings a point of this Schedule 7, where we have a categorization. And under category 4, you find that there is a point, there is a categorization where environment sustainability and ecologically balance and protection of flora and fauna is basically a part of it. And that is somehow we can say that adaptability of corporate social responsibility in environment. Lot many means if we see the application of CSR since 2014, undoubtedly it is a part of Companies Act 2013, but applicability was there in 2014. And we find it from 2014 till now, till 2022. We find that corporate are now spending, means they start spending a amount on environment as well. Undoubtedly, there is a COVID situation, and COVID brings somehow give more importance on healthcare contributions nowadays. So these are the categorization. If you see this Schedule 7, you have a rounded list in front of you, and you find it that the promotion of education is like one of the thing where maximum amount of CSR is being expended. Now, this is like a question to all of us. If in case during this particular COVID pandemic, we find that the only sector which was like shut down with respect to physical interaction was education. And we can say that the environment sustainability is one of the very important factor. And let me just show you the example. That's a visualized part, and that's something which is evident that in Delhi, smog is like one of the part where we can say that school was closed, and that was a reason of environment degradation. And that something brings a question to all of us, that if we are spending uneven amount to the promotion of education and to the environment, then we find it that there might be an imbalance in the society. And that brings a point that the adaptability of corporate social responsibility is very essential. And corporate also understand this particular phenomena, because whenever means these schools are like very much connected with lot many things, means lot many goods and services being required if there is a school running in a free flow. And that basically brings the mindset to the corporates that we have to spend in on environment as well. We have to restore the environment problem. We have to basically uh, provide support and sensitize and aware our own employees, as well as other through other events, we can sensitize the society the importance of environment. And that brings corporate environmental responsibility in the form of awareness. It is not only on the corporate to spend the amount. It is not at all a limitation. This is not something which they need to do, but creating awareness to the society that how environment is very important to all of us. And these are the two best example. And these are the newses which where I took this particular photographs, and where Delhi schools were closed as an air pollution. That's like a smog every year. We face this particular problem specifically in Delhi. And these are the some evident thing where through government notification, schools, colleges being shut down. So on one part, we are promoting education, and on the other part, we are ignoring the very important component of environment, where these corporates are also taking natural resources. They are utilizing the natural resources, and that somehow brings lot much responsibility, not only to the corporate, but through corporate to the society as well. So let me just give you a background of non-financial reporting. When we talk about financial reporting, where corporate need to spend like CSR, 2% they need to spend. So non-financial reporting are something where we can say that because of word non-financial, it is not very popular among us. And most of us are unaware about what is non-financial reporting. And when we talk about the background of this non-financial reporting, it is only the structure of corporate governance, where transparency, disclosure, and fair play is like an important parameter and the component where ministry issued the guideline. And you can see the trajectory from 2011. And this particular concept was introduced in 2009 in the ministry. And 2011, they come up with first policy. They issued that particular policy, and later on you find it that they increase the market capitalization from 100 to 1000 at present. So if you see in 2011, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they issued that national voluntary guidelines on social, environment, and economic responsibility. And in short, we can easily find out through NVG, National Voluntary Guidelines. And these guidelines are basically related to social, environment, and economic responsibility of the business. That business should be socially sustainable, environmentally sustainable, and economically balanced. And that was like the concept which was introduced in 2011. Undoubtedly, it is, we can say, it is much older than our CSR, corporate social responsibility. And this is something where legacy means a regulation being created. In 2012, SEBI come up with non-financial reporting, that company or business need not to spend anything, but they need to give their disclosures. And that is only listed to 100 listed companies based on market capitalization. So top 100 companies from 2012, we are doing this business responsibility reporting as a non-financial reporting, just because this particular reporting is nowhere linked with any sort of penalty. So that particular concept is not very much famous in corporate, and you will find that you're surprised to see the reporting which is being done by top 100 companies. They have not they have not maintained each and every aspect and each and every parameter which they need to include it in a very apparent and a transparent manner. And that somehow give a point that we have to make it more mandate. So in 2016, SEBI made business responsibility report applicable to top 500 companies, because 100 companies already they are doing it. So just to create a sample report by these 100, now they basically increase that particular level to 500 listed companies based on market capitalization. And one thing which was very prominent is like now they need to put it on their website. Now branding is something which is very important. If I can see that this particular means consumer can see that this particular branding, this particular business is not at all supporting social, economic and environment responsibilities, that may hamper a lot many things. There are a lot many stakeholders being involved. They raise the question before these companies, these corporates, and the number of listed companies reaches to 500. Now in 2019-20, this is just before the pandemic, so we can say the pre-pandemic era, and you're surprised to know that now 1000 top listed companies, now they have to give a mandatory disclosure of business responsibility report. And in that particular report, you will find 9 principles laid down. I'll also cover that particular point in my subsequent slides. And under that particular 9 principle, principle number 6 is very important. That is related to environment sustainability. That is related to restoration of the environment. And that is not something which we need to give only to the society, but how we can make the policy within our own company, how we imbibe that particular culture within our own employees. So we can multiply this awareness, means one employee can interact with more than 10%, and that multiplication will basically create a good structure. And in 2020 COVID era, we find it that it is now reaches to 1000 listed companies. And in 2019, the NVG principle, National Voluntary Guideline Principle, is basically revised, and they have covered national guideline on responsible business conduct. So it's like a code of conduct. Then now we have a business conduct, business ethics, and that is something which ethically we need to bring in our own businesses, and at the same point of time we need to make disclosure through reporting. Now MCA formed a committee, and this is like a recent thing nowadays, means after this 8th May 2020, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, give one format structure. And how this particular format structure was created, just to analyze that what internationally means in international market, what uh, other reporting structure is basically identify, and they have incorporated major points based on these 9 principles, where corporate only need to compliance. You have environment policy in means for your internal management committee. Yes. Do you have do that particular policy is being rectified by your director? Yes. So that means director is aware about their policies as well. So all these standards is now added, and they move one step ahead. Now they call this particular business responsibility report as an business responsibility and sustainability report. So now BRR become BRSR, and that is sustainability. And now we can draw a line of interaction from sustainable development goals as well. Now, after that, in 2021, 25th March, we come up with a proper formatting structure. And we mentioned that this is something where 1000 listed company need to, this is like a mandate. They have to file this particular business responsibility sustainable report, as well as they give a voluntary thing to other companies, those who not fall within top 1000 market capitalization. Now the question brings that why they will take an additional responsibility. It is because of the branding. And in near future, business responsibility report is like one of the things where we can say that other stakeholder or shareholder or the company or the investor, they will take part while seeing this particular business responsibility report along with the risk management. So this is like a new emerging concept of a business responsibility report in the form of business responsibility and sustainable report. And that basically how the committee basically work. First they take all the stakeholders, they take all the information from the public, what they want, what how we can improve the environment and how we can synchronize with the corporates. And that brings an overview that ESG concept is required. That means social governance is now required. And that is like an opportunity in order to basically implement a financial implication as well as the disclosure compliance. Means if company is spending anything, that means they need to make a disclosure in the form of report that what is the impact of these policies. And they come up with the sustainability related goals and target to perform. Means they cannot only mention the policy that this is the policy we have, they also cover the part that this sustainability policy, what is the target, what is the goal, and how they are performing, how they are executing the things. And you are surprised to know that in point number C, they have come up with the idea of environment related disclosure. They said that what energy you are using, what natural resources you are using, what type of pollutant emitting from your company, and at the same point of time how you are doing the waste management. And all the disclosures give an idea to the all the stakeholders that how this particular company performing, and at the same point of time how this particular company is environmentally sensitive. And they also cover the social related disclosures. Now most important point, consumer, if we can see the things through consumer aspect, we find it that these disclosure is basically pertaining with respect to the consumer complaints. And if they come up with the things which is like a reporting framework, then we have all these sort of reporting framework. Without we are going a little fast now. As per 9 principle involved under this particular business responsibility report, always remember that principle number 6 is very important to all of us. That basically talks about uh, respect, protect, and make effort to restore the environment. So it is not only that we need to protect the environment, we also need to restore. If there is some damage in the environment, then if there is a damage means degradation in the environment, then also we need to restore that as well. And if you see in 8 number point, it is specifically principle 8 says that business should sustain inclusive growth and equitable development. And that is something which gives a customer satisfaction on one goal. If I conclude my presentation, then there are two major points involved into it. First and the foremost thing that CSR and environment, when we spend CSR through environment, that means we have a mandate of section 135, and that mandate is not applicable to all, but they have to give a financial disclosure at the same point of time. They have to give, they have to spend the amount as well. And second thing is like non-financial disclosure, and that can be possible through business responsibility reporting, where principle 6, where company need to share their environmental disclosure, that how they protect the environment, how they basically respect the environment through their policies, and how they basically restore the environment. Now I'm just stop sharing my screen, and at the same point of time I'll just conclude on one point that now it means that is very common to all of us. Earth R means where there is like a disconnection of all energy. Energy over here means electric energies, electric appliances. And that basically brings a concept that is like a concept of restoration of the environment. And always remember, when we talk about this restoration of environment, the one major goal, the one major thing which we need to focus more is like we have to give importance to these standards. And these are the standards not only imbibing specifically in our own country, but these are the certain standard which is like internationally being recognized. And there are a lot many sustainability reporting structure where we can see that environment is like one of the very important component, and there is no jurisdiction. We cannot stop the environment in a specific area. We cannot restrict the environment. We cannot restrict this pollutant. We cannot restrict this pollution. So at the same point of time, we cannot say that company can specifically work on this area. There can be means that can be possible, and that area is wider enough in order to cover that particular point. Now, at last, when we talk about this particular business responsibility report, that's a non-financial disclosure. Always remember on one pretext that environment sustainability is like a part where we have to give much importance, and that's why it is not at all restored through financial disclosure. It can be possible through non-financial disclosures, so that the stakeholder can raise the question to the corporates. So thank you so much. That's it from my side. And if there are any question, anything related to the same, I'll happy to answer that as well.
Yes. Yes, Arpit sir, you said it very wisely that the concept of CSR is added and it is serving its purpose. But the major aspect which is connected with society is first and foremost the environment. So environment responsibility is also must. On that note, there's a question that we have got. I would read that global organizations are increasing their investments in environment, health and safety, EHS, rated organizations. So do we have equivalent or aligned standards in India?
Okay, so a very good question, Sagarji. And specifically, when we talk about the same standard, we do not have, because at the same point of time, equivalence is not being demarcated in India, because already Ministry of Corporate Affairs deny that particular concept of CER in India. So we do not have a concept of CER. But corporates understanding that the corporate social responsibility is not enough in order to engage in environmental responsibility. And that is the reason the corporate themselves is doing it. So I hope I answered the point.
Yes, sir, we understood it. Now, from the present participants, anyone is having any questions, then they may ask to the sir directly or write it down in the chat box. As we are in short of time, we would be concluding exactly after 5 minutes, that is at 7:40.
Thank you. Thanks for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a little query on the topic that
Yes,
agreed
please.
to the fact that it is yet to develop here. Like that, we are in the transition phase right now.
Yes.
So what can be the like remedy or any mechanism which can serve the purpose for this medium, like in the in between period?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first and the foremost thing is like disclosures, and corporates are means the major fear of the corporate is related to branding. And if they are not spending and if they are not making a proper disclosure, that is again means that's like a boomerang with respect to their brandings. And somehow uh, that particular aspect, when we talk about the environmental disclosures, we find it from 2012 to 2016. We find that all the disclosure are not sufficient even by top 100 companies or top 200 companies. And that is something we can see that nowadays stakeholder being asked the question that how you are managing your waste management, how you are means disclosing your environmental pollutants. So everything is now related to one part, that is called disclosure. And that's why there is no penalty, because if you are not disclosing it in a proper way, maybe your branding will be suffer in near future. And we find it that in social media and yellow journalism, that there are lot many criticism with respect to lot many means top rated companies based on market capitalization, including Reliance and even one of the corporate, that is Grasim. They got CSR award, and at the same point of time NGT imposed penalty of 1 crore rupees on them. That was happened in 2017. So that particular question being raised in social media as well. And somehow that is exactly a boomerang for the company. So now companies are very much selective with respect to these things, and they are not seeing that when ministry make any penalty to them, it's better to make all the formats in a proper aligned manner so that stakeholder cannot raise a question on their brandings.
Yes, sir, it was very elaborate. Now, I think there's no other query of any participants. And as this meeting was already recorded, so if anybody was not able to attend it, then they may check out the recording also. That would be uploaded soon on the legal savior platforms. And at this juncture, I would like to thank Arpit sir to once again accept our invitation and join us and share your knowledge on the topic. All the best wishes for your PhD thesis that you are right now working on, and looking forward to connect and gain knowledge on companies law and interact with you on the topic. Thank you very much. Now we will be concluding. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sagar. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Shankar.